Well, shungite in and of itself, I mean, every mineral has a certain amount of, well, it's got an energy field. But then it also has a sentience. A sentience being that you can detect a consciousness with it. In most cases, you're connecting to what I think of as the group consciousness of the mineral. The core, the creator God, if you will, of that mineral. One couple's called it the guardians of the gemstones, the guardian, the lower soul, if you will. When you're dealing with shungite, it's very difficult to get your finger on that kind of energy, because every piece of shungite seems to have its own little identity. And I know that sounds weird, but I've been working with I've handled probably tens of thousands of pieces of shungite. And yes, they have that group soul thing, but it's almost like when you focus your energy on one little nugget, that nugget kind of comes alive, kind of like takes on a personality. And I don't have my handle on it yet. I'm not sure what exactly is happening. And yes, Gaia is definitely involved in it. Did Gaia create it? Is this a creation of the creative consciousness of this biosphere? Or did this come from outer space? There's so many stories that you can kind of imagine involving shungite. Like one of the problems that I had when I first started looking at it, and granted it's been a couple of years, some of the information, there's so much information coming out all the time that you can't hardly keep up with it. But when they first started to when I first started understanding shungite and researching it, there was the concept that it was somehow or another they figured out that the beginnings of life happened in the same area that the shungite's in. And they said this was the earliest vestiges of life that they can see in fossils. So what you have is a situation where the area could have turned into amoebas, and then into protozoas, and then starting, the basic grasses and all of the stuff that goes to make a swamp, that then becomes a bog, that then becomes the chemical basis for coal. And the chemistry for coal is this chemistry for shungite to a degree. So they were saying that this is why shungite showed up. Well, that didn't make any damn sense to me at all. What made more sense to me was that something from outer space, because the molecule in it, the fullerene, can only be created in a vacuum like outer space. Now they create it in the lab, that's how they originally found it, and then they found it in nature. But it's got to be and this is a huge thing. This is 1,000 kilometers, and it goes down, I've heard, to 400 feet in places. So this is a huge amount of stuff. But I think that it was manufactured somewhere in the cosmos and then struck Earth. Now, was this chance? I don't believe in chance. I believe that chance, coincidence, synchronicity is all thought and action. So I think that Gaia, the creator God of this biosphere, got to a point of conscious evolution in her own beingness. In other words, she starts from a pocket of gas and goes through the molten phase and all the phases. Each one of those phases of life is actually another level of consciousness. And finally she gets to a point where she goes like, I think I'm going to try to make some little life here. Well, how do you make life? You have to have the basics for life. And I think it was the desire of Gaia herself to take this evolution of consciousness and the evolution of the biosphere's existence and to bring the next step, which is life. And so the universe said, fine, we'll give you life. We're going to give you shungite. And it hits the earth. And from there came the vestiges of the beginning of life. That's why they see it there. Not that it created shungite. Shungite had all of the energies needed for life. Now, when Andrew Bartzis did a reading of the Akashic Record, he said that shungite holds the energy of every mineral ever on the planet or will be in the planet. All the energies are there. So, to me, that was the beginning of life. That was the beginning of the consciousness revolution within Gaia herself that starts the different layers of life that, again, is a consciousness evolution. And now we're at a point where we need her top level of consciousness, humans, are now in a situation where they could annihilate themselves because of a lot of reasons. So that's when certain people within the humanity began to wake up and say, there's something wrong, something wrong, something wrong, me included. And we were led to the understanding that all of this would not be possible if there was not a creator God for this specific biosphere. I'm not saying Gaia is source God. I'm saying she is a creator God, a consciousness that's capable of manifesting life. And the reason I got to that was not metaphysics, was not the Catholic Church. It was because I was studying science. And science came to the conclusion at the quantum level that the basic bottom line to everything is you cannot have manifestation without consciousness. Period. So where's the consciousness? And they all came to the same conclusion. There's a creator consciousness for this biosphere. Different disciplines of science. Sane human beings using math and algebra and calculus and angles and then, theories of how everything starts. All of the science that we know, different disciplines came to the same conclusion. To have manifestation, you have to have a consciousness. Therefore, there is a consciousness that's creating this biosphere, and this is not going to stop. The consciousness will evolve again. And that's what they were waiting for, the evolution of the consciousness. But she can't evolve until we do. So what happens? We ask for help, and she gives us shungite. This is not a normal mineral. This is something that came from the heart of the universe to fuel the life forces that Gaia needed to make the jump into life. And now she needs it to make another jump into a empowered life where every individual, every human being is like a shaman. They can understand, they're empathic, they can understand, they can feel, and they can feel the collected consciousness of everything. How all these individuals come together to make a wonderful pot of stew called life. And it's another level of understanding, of awakening, even for the planet herself. So, no, you cannot go after shungite as if it's a mineral. It's more than anything I've ever encountered. I know the minerals. I have one of the... Stephanie can tell you, there's crystals and stones all over this place. I've lived with them for, 40 years. I know what these things are. And every time you would get something, it was going to be, it does this, it does this, it does this. Within a short period of time, it would fall on its sword. It wouldn't really perform like we thought it could. Shungite is never disappointed. It continually morphs into this, you want to see what else I can do? And it keeps us extremely productive and busy because it keeps showing another side of itself. So, no, I can't really address shungite as being a mineral. It's much more. And there is a a consciousness behind it, whether it's Gaia herself or whether there is, you know, I get the feeling that at the mother lode there's a consciousness. But see, this is what always amazes me when you get into this whole quantum physics stuff, because if we start to put in a lot of understanding that there is a consciousness, sentience at the core of the Carillion shungite field, the more we think that, the more it becomes powerful. We are the creators. What we begin to believe is what shungite will become, even though it's already there. We're just following the breadcrumbs. Boy, that got a little heavy, didn't it?